My name is Emily, and at 35, I've spent the past decade as a homemaker. I've been married to Michael, a doctor, for all these years, though the blessing of children eluded us. Despite that, we've managed to lead a reasonably happy life together. However, everything took an unexpected turn one day. Michael, arriving home late as usual, dropped a bombshell on me. "Emily, this is the end for us," he declared abruptly, confused and shocked. I asked him what he meant. "I decided to marry my mistress, so we're getting divorced today," he announced matter-of-factly. Stunned, I questioned his decision. "Marry your mistress? What are you talking about?" "I've made up my mind. I'm leaving you and marrying her. Besides, we didn't marry for love, so you probably don't care, right?" Indeed, ours wasn't a love marriage. Michael's parents were eager for him to marry, and I was deemed a suitable match. We hardly knew each other and swiftly tied the knot. The only commonality we shared was our last name, an ironic twist that some might call fate. In the rush of surrounding marriages, I had been attracted to the idea and decided to marry him. We navigated our wedding and married life reasonably well, considering the lack of love. Yet, after a decade together, Michael dropped the bomb. "It wasn't a love marriage, but we've lived together for 10 years. And now you suddenly want to marry your mistress. When did you start betraying me?" "It's not betrayal," Michael retorted. "I met her about a year ago. She's a nurse who joined our hospital. She's charming, unlike you, always caring for me. It's natural that I was drawn to her." I was taken aback by his admission. Natural. "Are you serious?" "Yes, I've always been serious. These 10 years living with you have been true hell. I was honestly sick and tired of supporting such a boring woman. But that ends today. How can you talk like that?" "It's the truth. You're a homemaker who produces nothing, while she's an active nurse. Ask any man in the country, and they'd all choose her over you. Do you think a high-flying doctor like me needs someone like you?" After a pause, I composed myself and spoke. "Fine, let's divorce." I never thought I'd be married to someone who could say such things. Remaining composed, I responded calmly, "We can discuss alimony and property division later with a lawyer. I'll sign the divorce papers and send them later. Until then, I'll go back to my parents' house." However, Michael interrupted my plans. "No need for discussions. We don't even need a divorce paper," he declared. Confused, I argued that we couldn't separate without it, as remarrying would be impossible. To my surprise, Michael revealed a shocking truth. "You're so naive. It's pathetic. The truth is, I never submitted our marriage registration. We're not a married couple, just cohabitants. So there's no divorce, no alimony, no property division. You thought you'd get my money in the divorce, but you won't get a penny." Stunned, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Michael explained that he was supposed to submit our marriage registration on the day, but he never did. When I couldn't go due to an urgent matter, he didn't submit it. I accused him of joking, but he insisted it was true. "We made some rules when we got married," he continued. "I, as a homemaker, would handle all the household chores, and you were on an allowance with no part-time work allowed. I decided to handle all governmental and official matters." "Why would you do such a thing?" I asked. Michael explained that he was about to be forced into a loveless marriage and didn't want to easily submit the registration. He saved it for someone he was destined to be with. I questioned why he didn't refuse the proposal, but he claimed his parents were stubborn and wouldn't listen. "I wanted a housekeeper," he continued. "You seemed too desperate to get married too. Even though we weren't actually married, you were seen as the woman who married a doctor. This 10-year relationship was a win-win for both of us, and it ends today." He warned me not to tell his parents, implying a threat to my father's business connections. Feeling deceived, he added, "It's your fault for being deceived." How pitiful to be thrown out with nothing. Laughing, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. When Michael questioned my sudden amusement, I revealed, "I can't believe you became a doctor with that kind of knowledge." Confused, he asked what I meant, but I exposed that I had known about his mistress and the unsubmitted marriage registration for the past 6 months. I had been preparing for the day he would bring it up, ready to get my revenge. Realizing I didn't have enough evidence to confront Michael, I decided to hire a private investigator to look into his affair. The investigator delivered two shocking revelations. "Ma'am, the first is that your husband is indeed having an affair. We've got evidence of him entering a hotel with a nurse from his workplace," the investigator began. "And the second is from their conversations. There's a possibility that you two are not legally married." I was taken aback. Possibility of not being legally married? What does that mean? I'd overheard your husband and his mistress at a cafe. He said they didn't need to worry about alimony or property division since they never submitted a marriage registration, the investigator explained. I can't believe it. We've been living as a married couple for 10 years. I don't know why he didn't submit the marriage registration. That's why he never let me handle any official procedures. Yeah, that seems to be the case, the investigator agreed. I couldn't fathom the situation. How could this happen? Am I just supposed to accept this? Not necessarily, the investigator reassured me. Let's make him pay for deceiving you for 10 years. First, we need to prepare without him noticing. So, with the investigator's guidance, I began preparing to confront and punish my husband. However, the investigator dropped another bombshell. So what if you knew we were never married from the start? So it doesn't matter what I do with other women. I don't need to take any responsibility, I vented, expressing my frustration. You said I was pitiful for not knowing anything. But it seems you were the one who was pitiful, the investigator pointed out. What do you mean? I questioned. We're considered to be in a common law relationship on paper, the investigator revealed. So even if you were never legally married, you can actually claim alimony and divide property in a common law relationship. What? He didn't know that registering as a de facto marriage would backfire on him. Exactly. You can make claims in a common law relationship. It's not well known, but yes, you can. Of course, there are some conditions, but looking at your case, it seems you meet them. What are these conditions? The common law relationship is established based on two criteria. First, both parties must have the intention to marry. If it's just living together, that's cohabitation. Mutual intent to marry is key. For instance, if you had a wedding ceremony or were recognized as a couple by others, it can be acknowledged. We've had a wedding ceremony, and our parents and friends know us as a couple, so the first criterion is met. The second is living as if married. This includes sharing household life for over 3 years. You've been living together as a couple for over 10 years, and as a homemaker, you've obviously shared the household finances. This is recognized as a marital relationship. So, if I can provide proof of what we discussed, I can claim alimony and divide property. Yes, that's correct. I'm not an expert in this area, so I'll introduce you to a lawyer. You can work with them to bring him down. After consulting with the lawyer, I discovered that I could indeed claim alimony and property division from Michael. It was time to make him face the consequences of his actions. I'm going to demand alimony and property division from you. I calmly informed my husband, who turned pale. His confidence, which had looked down on me just a moment ago, was gone. But even if you can claim alimony and property division, you're just an unemployed woman. Do you plan to rely on your parents after being kicked out? He retorted. I've been preparing. I've already found a job starting next month. I've also got my eye on a new place. Don't worry about me, I asserted confidently. What he thought would leave me helpless was far from the truth. The tables had turned. I'll make sure to discuss this with your parents, just so you know, I added. Do you not care what happens to your father if they want to break the contract? Let them. Sure, you were the link to the hospital. But the contract continued because of my father and his company's efforts. Whether or not they keep the contract is up to them. Let's see if they'll break a contract just because the doctor's wife of 10 years was a lie. Try saying that you, my father, and it won't be affected if the contract is broken over this. It only shows the depth of their trust. We'll just find another hospital to partner with. Saying this, I took out my phone. "You're not calling your parents, are you?" he questioned. "That's exactly what I'm doing. Our parents think we're still married. It's only natural to inform them if this relationship is ending." To my surprise, my husband began to apologize. "Please, let me talk to them. Don't call." "Why? You know how strict my parents are. If they find out about this, I'm done," he pleaded. "What does that have to do with me? You're asking me not to tell the truth because your parents are strict. Are you kidding? You could have refused the marriage from the start if you didn't intend to marry. After 10 years of a selfish marriage, you're afraid of your parents finding out. I can't accept such a convenient story." However, my husband continued to apologize, acknowledging his fault. As he spoke, I remained firm. "I'll make sure to tell both your parents and mine." And so I called both sets of parents, sharing the shocking truth with them. All four were shocked upon hearing my story, and a meeting was promptly arranged at our house. "I've heard everything over the phone. Is it true that you pretended to be married for 10 years without submitting a marriage registration? Speak up, you foolish son," scolded my father-in-law. "It's true. I didn't submit it. I had no choice. Dad and Mom, I didn't want to get married. Yet you started looking for a bride on your own, saying it was time I got married. You arranged meetings and tried to force a marriage on me. You're the one who agreed to the marriage, aren't you?" "I had to agree. If I had refused, you would have made a fuss about it. So I decided to get married. If you were resolved to marry, why didn't you submit the marriage registration?" I read about a man on the internet who was in the same situation. He didn't want to marry but had to because of his parents. He lived a married life without submitting the registration, then revealed the truth when he found someone he truly loved. That's appalling. And what happened to that guy in the end? He's now married to the person he loves and has a real marriage. So, I too will marry my girlfriend and have a real marriage. My parents-in-law, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "A real marriage, huh? Sure, you might not have had a love marriage, but do you remember what you said at the wedding? We will never forget to care for each other and build a home full of smiles." What did those words mean to you? Did you build a home full of smiles? Now you're leaving her for another woman. Can someone who acts without a shred of care, even if they change partners, truly have a real marriage? "Well, my husband stammered. "I was happy you married our daughter, not just because you were a doctor. I thought she could build a happy home with someone as sincere as you. But it seems we were mistaken and deceived. And you threatened our daughter. If she told us about this, you'd cut off the contract with our company. Seriously, if you're going to threaten our daughter, we'll cut off the contract ourselves. Be warned. We will tell the truth when asked why. If you do that, there will be rumors at the hospital." "Well, yes, but that's the result of your own actions. You were the one who threatened us with cutting off the contract," my husband argued. My father-in-law, in complete panic at this unexpected turn of events, pleaded for understanding. "Please wait. This is getting out of hand. Let's just talk." But my father-in-law wasn't having it. "Don't mess with us." He grabbed my husband by the collar, furious. "We didn't raise you to be such a scoundrel." "What were you thinking, Father? Please stop. By not submitting the marriage registration, you might have thought you were doing yourself a favor. But because of your selfish actions, Emily was strung along for 10 years. What were you thinking, causing such trouble to others?" The living room fell silent. My husband, faced with my father-in-law's words, had nothing more to say. "Emily and your parents, I'm truly sorry for the trouble caused by this idiot." "No, you parents shouldn't apologize. It's not your fault. However, it's partly our responsibility as parents for letting him act this way. For now, we'll take him home and make sure he doesn't continue his reckless behavior. We'll deal with the aftermath properly. We're very sorry for all this." With that, my husband was taken away by his parents back to his childhood home. My parents, thinking I was completely exhausted and deceived, spoke to me with such kindness. "You've been through a lot. For now, you should come back home and rest. We'll think about what to do next later. You don't need to worry about anything right now. But I declined their offer. Thank you, but I won't go back home yet. I still have things I need to do. I stayed in my own home, determined to handle the aftermath and move forward. I had to prepare for the final settlement with my now ex-husband, gathering evidence for our common law relationship. I was getting ready to claim alimony and divide our assets. A few weeks later, a meeting with a lawyer was arranged. However, even if I agreed to alimony, my ex-husband questioned why he should divide his property. She's been a homemaker for 10 years, never working a day. All the furniture, clothes, food. I paid for everything. Now you're telling me to hand over the money I worked hard for, the furniture I bought. He ranted, unable to accept the idea of sharing his earnings. Yes, that's correct. The money you earned and the furniture are subject to property division, the lawyer explained. Why does it have to be like that? Who did the housework while you were working? Who cooked meals with the groceries you bought? He argued. That's irrelevant now, the lawyer responded. No, it's very relevant. A homemaker is entitled to property division because housework and child care have economic value. Speaking as a human, not just a lawyer, do you think housework is something anyone can do? That it's just expected of a homemaker? The reason you could live freely is because of her support. Don't get that wrong. What? And this situation is a result of your actions, yet you have the audacity to be selfish. The lawyer continued, you may think 10 years is just a short time, but it's longer than you realize. During that time, she devoted herself to you, believing you were a married couple. You have no right to complain after betraying her. Unable to argue further, my ex-husband reluctantly agreed to my demands. I also sent a notice of claim for alimony to his mistress, whom I had identified thanks to the investigator. She was a nurse working at the same hospital. In a panic, she confronted him at the hospital with the notice I had sent. Wait a minute. This isn't what you told me. What do you want? She demanded. I told you not to talk to me at the hospital. I got this from your wife, he explained. You said there wouldn't be any alimony because we weren't married. What's this all about? In the end, she was shocked by the contents of the claim. This exchange led to the revelation of their affair to the entire hospital, becoming the talk of the place. The final blow came when my father requested to terminate the contract with the hospital, and the news spread among both staff and patients. In the aftermath, my ex-husband and his mistress resigned from the hospital. I received alimony payments from both of them, and the contract termination my father initially requested was off the table. About a year and a half later, my ex-husband contacted me upon hearing that I had remarried. Despite his attempt to taunt me, I made it clear that my new marriage was a happy one. His selfish nature, I realized, was unlikely to lead him to happiness unless he underwent a significant change.